Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's service. We will be continuing with the weekly memorial services. The in-person services have been delayed indefinitely because of the big spike that happened. So, unfortunately, it's very difficult to see when anytime in the future we'll be able to have in-person services. So we'll continue to have these weekly memorial services. Of course, to have like an individual service would be fine as well if you'd like to contact me. But for now, we'll continue with these. So we'll begin with the chanting of Sambutsuge, followed by reading of the names and then a short message. So we'll go ahead and get started with the chanting of Sambutsuge. Namandos, 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 namandos. Kogen gigi ijimu goku nyoze emyo muyo tosha nichigatsu mani shuko enyo kaishitsu onbei 有脈注目如来予言朝鮮無輪小学大音法律実法開門精進三昧知恵意徳無量 修正慶雲神大前年小仏崩壊愚人人の空語外体無明欲ぬ世尊読む人の死死人徳無量空君高内知恵人妙光明異相神道大仙願が差別在所法可動生じ身分下納不正上位 開任精進行税三昧知恵以上合成特物無行志願二切空空一切大安慶死無物百千億万無量大小 修行五弱用一切死と小仏不尿具の検証不脚非尿五弱小仏世界部不可見無種説の光明師匠 hem shi shokoku nyoze shojin ijin nanyo ryoga sabutsu koku no dai ichi goshu kimyo dojo chozetsu koku nyo naion nimu toso gato aimin ドーナツ一切一歩来所心熱症状意図過国経絡安穏鉱物神妙税が心象発が脳意 力小小欲実法生存知恵無下上量思想知が信用権量心身食特徴学業精進人流権ナマンダメナマンダメナマンダメナマンダメナマンダメナマンダメがんにしくどく病のせいさいどんぼ大心おじょあなこNamandobs, namandobs, 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 namandobs. I'll now read the names for this week's memorial service. Ryo Orite, Harry Haruno Ito. If you could all please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandobs, namandobs, namandobs. Okay, now I have a short message. Today, I was going to talk about the Buddhist equivalent, or at least somehow I see it as kind of equivalent to, in Christianity, the 7 deadly sins. So I think being in America, we're heavily influenced by Christianity and the thinking and the different concepts, and so we are aware of different parts of Christianity like that. And they are, so I had to look them up because I couldn't come up with all of them on my own. It's kind of like the states or something where like you forget one. But according to the standard list, they are pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. And I looked a little bit into the, I guess, history of it and why they were used. And it was thought that these sins were kind of the root of all of immoral actions. So it can be traced down to these things, and if you prevent these things, it's like cutting it off at the source, and then from there, you won't have these immoral actions. So that kind of thinking is actually kind of Buddhist, where like cutting something off at the root and then everything that happens after it is then ended. But the idea of sin, I guess, is something very particular to Christianity, and it is different from Buddhism. Instead, they are, there's this one sutra, the Asana Yuna, and it talks about also 7, so this kind of lucky number, or unlucky, I guess. But instead of sins, in one translation, they're called latent tendencies, which is probably closer to what it actually was in like the Sanskrit. But another translation that I felt was perhaps a little more meaningful or a little more useful was the 7 obsessions. So I thought that was a good way of explaining it. And so the 7 obsessions, and then also like the one translation, they kind of have a little harder to understand English, in a little more of a literal translation. And this one, I think, has a little bit more of an interpretation. So it has a little more meaning again. So the 7 obsessions are the obsession with sensual passion, the obsessions with resistance, the obsession of views, the obsession of uncertainty, the obsession of conceit, the obsession of passion for becoming, and the obsession of ignorance. And then, of course, in the Buddhist sutra, it says, with the abandoning and destruction of these 7 obsessions, then you can live the right life. So again, this idea that it can be traced down to these things are suffering, and if you cut it off at the root, then everything that comes from that will then disappear. And so if you disappear the sufferings from your life, then you're left with what is, a more happy or enjoyable life. Now, I thought it was a important distinction with this idea of maybe, like a sin versus an obsession, right? Where this sin idea is kind of inherently bad or inherently evil, and within Buddhism, there's much less black and white, and it's very gray. Everything is very gray. We have to learn and then kind of decide, depending on the situation, what really the best course of action would be. And so this idea of having the word obsession itself is not necessarily good or bad. I mean, I think probably most people would say, oh, obsession, that's like not good. If you have an obsession with something, then you've got something wrong, like when you have the TV shows with people who are like hoarders or something, or they have an obsession with like eating weird stuff. But so like that, in that sense, obsession, I think in our society has this kind of negative connotation. But there's also this obsession that could possibly lead to great achievements. So the obsession that maybe Michael Jordan had with basketball, the obsession that Tesla or Edison had with like electricity, the obsession that people have to create or invent or achieve. I think that also can be applied to this word obsession, and it has more of a positive connotation. I mean, it seems like there's some kind of maybe backlash or blowback from having that deep of a drive to have following a singular thing so closely. But there is that leeway, I think, within the understanding of the word that it's not always necessarily good or bad. Rather, as we always talk about in Buddhism, we have to have some kind of balance. Within Jodo Shinshu, we understand that we are imperfect beings, and so with any of these obsessions, whether it's the resistance, uncertainty, conceit, ignorance, there are things in our life that will naturally occur. But when we think about it in this terms of obsession, then it helps us to recognize that if we cling on too tightly to it, that it will stop us from being able to live that happy life. So with anything in our life, we're always taught in Buddhism that we have to let go. I think we hear that a lot, let go, let go. But on the flip side of that, to help us maybe better understand it, to see it from a different point of view, if we think about this idea of obsessions, hopefully that might help us recognize these destructive, in an extreme sense, or maybe just very unhappy behaviors. So I hope everyone, as you continue in this very difficult time, I know our, which one is it? The uncertainty, the obsession with uncertainty, it can be very difficult because we really don't know what's going to happen. We're not sure what the future holds for us in many aspects of our lives. And it's really difficult not to be obsessed with it, to try to look in the news, to talk about it with your friends and your family. It seems like it almost consumes us. So in recognizing that this obsession with uncertainty is something that can have damaging effects to our way of life, of our our happiness, then it's important for us to then let go. So I know everyone's struggling with their happiness, with their mental health right now, and hopefully if we recognize our obsession with uncertainty, we can start to really let go of it. And this is going to look different for each and every person, but maybe one place that we could all stop is to designate some time in our day when we decide that we're just not going to think about the things that are uncertain and think about the things that we do know will come tomorrow. It can be something as easy as knowing, like, oh, well, tomorrow, hopefully, we'll still be here. I guess that's never guaranteed, but if we are here, that there will be people who love us, that there will be hopefully a roof over our head. We'll have our pets and stuff will be there. They'll greet us. I feel like that's one thing that we can always count on is our pets being able to greet us early in the morning. But in understanding that there's these things that we can count on, there are other things that we can have some control over if we take some time to recognize and appreciate those kinds of things and decide not to think about everything that is uncertain. It will help us to be a little bit happier, to cut off a little bit of that suffering, and what's left is a more enjoyable life. If you please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabs, namandabs, namandabs. Okay, we'll close with the letter on white ashes. In silently contemplating the transient nature of human existence, nothing is more fragile and fleeting in this world than the life of man. Thus, we have not heard of human life lasting for 1,000 years. Life passes swiftly, and few among men can maintain their form for even 100 years. Whether I go before others, or others go before me, whether it be today or tomorrow, who is to know? Those who depart before us are as countless as the drops of dew. Though in the morning we may have radiant health, in the evening we may return to white ashes. When the winds of impermanence blow, our eyes are closed forever, and when the last breath leaves us, our face loses its color. The loved ones may gather and lament, everything is to no avail. The body is then sent into an open field and vanishes from this world with the smoke of cremation, leaving only the white ashes. Nothing is more real than this truth of life. The fragile nature of human existence underlies both the young and the old. Therefore we must, one and all, turn to the teachings of the Buddha Dharma and awaken to the essence of life. By so understanding the meaning of death, we come to appreciate the meaning of this life, which is to be treasured because it is unrepeatable. By virtue of true compassion, let us realize and accept the value of this existence, and let us live together with gratitude in our hearts. If you'll please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namando, namando, namando. Thank you again, everyone, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning. All right, bye.